right, time for convening having arrived. The Senate will come to order. Would ask that unauthorized visitors exit the chamber at this time, and the Senate will come to order. Chair recognizes the very distinguished Rules Committee Chairman, Senator from the 53rd.
Mr. President, it's a beautiful day at our Capitol, and it's Law Enforcement Day. The senator from the 7th has got all of his peeps here. Also a moment in history. 60 years ago today, the senator from the 24th started his singing career. It didn't take, and he's now in the Senate. The journal's been read and found to be correct.
Oh, I tell you, the Senator from the 24th, I tell you, that was a legendary album he put together. We appreciate very much his good work and good contribution. And certainly welcome our law enforcement officers that are present with us today, and we'll recognize them a little bit later as well. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? Reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? Chair is none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators having bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Resolution 1091 by Senators Bethel, the 54th, and others. A resolution creating
Insurance and labor.
Senate Resolution 1098 by Senators Vanessa, the 43rd, and others. A resolution
Public safety.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions.
House Bill 12 by Representatives Rogers of the 10th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 4 of Chapter 9 of Title 16.
Veterans.
House Bill 54 by Representatives Waits of the 60th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Subpart 7.
Higher education.
House Bill 171 by Representatives Hightower of the 68th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend.
Special judiciary.
House Bill 229 by Representative Strickland of the 111th and
Health
others.
and Human Services.
House Bill 285 by Representative Stevens of the 164th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend.
Finance Committee.
House Bill 364 by Representatives Knight of the 130th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to
Finance Committee.
House Bill 365 by Representatives Knight of the 130th and others.
Finance Committee.
House Bill 381 by Representatives Welch of the 110th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 45
Special Judiciary.
House Bill 471 by Representative Stevens of the 164th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 10.
Finance Committee.
House Bill 513 by Representative Stevens of the 164th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3.
Economic Development.
House Bill 605.
And Human Services.
House Bill 725 by Representatives Control of the 22nd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 727 by Representatives Battle of the 15th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend
Public Safety.
House Bill 734 by Representative Spencer of the 180th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Titles 36, 41, and 51 of the OCG relating to local government nuisances and
Science and Technology.
House Bill 779 by Representative Tanner of the 9th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 16 of the OCG relating to crimes and offenses.
Science and Technology.
House Bill 825 by Representative Smith of the 125th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter
Health
7.
and Human Services.
House Bill 828 by Representative Flood of the 64th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend.
Finance.
House Bill 862 by Representatives Knight on the 130th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-5.
Finance.
House Bill 868 by Representatives Rogers of the 10th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend.
Education and Youth.
House Bill 889 by Representatives Kids on the 145th and a bill to be entitled.
Regulated Industries.
House Bill 895 by Representative Mayo of the 84th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCG relating to elementary and secondary education.
Education and Youth.
House Bill 922 by Representative Williamson of the 115th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40.
Finance Committee.
House Bill 924 by Representative Epps of the 144th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48.
Finance Committee.
House Bill 934 by Representatives Kirby of the 114th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 45 of the
Health
OCG.
and Human Services.
House Bill 935 by Representatives Harold of the 106th and others. A bill to be entitled.
Finance.
House Bill 936 by Representatives Harold of the 106 and others.
Finance.
House Bill 937 by Representatives Harold of the 106 and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-8-3 of the OCG.
Finance.
House Bill 943 by Representatives Rogers of the 29th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 8 of.
Insurance and Labor.
House Bill 957 by Representative Abrams of the 89th and others. A bill to be entitled.
Special Judiciary.
House Bill 960 by Representatives Kelly of the 16th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to.
Finance.
House Bill 976 by Representative Hitchens of the 161st and others. A bill to be entitled an act.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
House Bill 982 by Representative Stevens of the 164th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend.
Finance.
House Bill 990 by Representative Powell of the 171st. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5C of Title 40.
Finance.
House Bill 1004 by Representative Jaspers of the 11th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Titles 15 and 44 of the OCG relating to courts.
Special Judiciary.
House Bill 1014 by Representatives Powell of the 171st and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend.
Finance.
House Bill 1025 by Representatives Taylor of the 79th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 4.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1028 by Representatives Werkheiser of the 157th and others.
Natural Resources.
House Bill 1036 by Representative Hitchens of the 161st and others.
Regulated Industries.
House Bill 1037 by Representatives Clark of the 101st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1043 by Representatives Kelly of the 16th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to
Health
amend.
and Human Services.
House Bill 1053 by Representatives Taylor of the 173rd, a bill entitled.
Slow go.
House Bill 1058 by Representatives Price of the 48th and others, a bill to be entitled.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1060 by Representatives Jaspers of the 11th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1066 by Representatives Powell of the 32nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend.
State Institution and Properties.
House Bill 1070 by Representatives Dempsey of the 13th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to
Health
amend.
and Human Services.
House Resolution 1052 by Representative Chokas of the 138th, a resolution honoring the life of Mr. Tom.
Transportation.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
Secretary will read reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, the Senate State and Local Governmental Operations Committee has had under consideration the following legislation, instructing me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 421 do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 412 do pass. House Bill 857 do pass by substitute. House Bill 890 do pass. House Bill 1020 do pass. House Bill 1038 do pass. House Bill 1042 do pass. House Bill 1044 do pass. Respectfully submitted by Senator Albers of the 56th. Mr. President, that completes the reports.
It is now time for the morning roll call. Time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Any motions to excuse? Chair recognizes Senator from the 13th.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 43rd for business inside the Capitol and from
Third,
43rd
43rd.
and from the 14th from business outside the Capitol.
43rd and 14th, without objection, the two senators will be excused. Chair recognizes Senator from the 9th.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent that the senator from the 27th be excused for business outside the Capitol.
27th, without objection, senator be excused. Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 52nd for business outside the Capitol.
52nd, without objection, senator be excused. Chair recognizes Majority Leader, Senator from the 46th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 56th, business outside the Capitol.
56, without objection, senator will be excused. Chair recognizes Senator from the 23rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse Senator from the 25th for business outside the chamber.
25th. He was probably out late last night celebrating, I suspect, along with the senator from the 27th. Without objection, senator from the 25th will be excused. Are there any other motions to excuse? Any other motions to excuse? Senators, please signify your presence by voting the yea switch. Secretary will unlock the machine. It is now time for our morning devotion. Would ask the doorkeepers please, or secure the chamber at this time. Senators, please take your seats and cease all audible conversation at this time as we prepare the chamber for our morning devotion. It is now my honor to recognize the senator from the 36th for the purpose of leading us in our pledge and introducing our special chaplain of the day.
Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. I'm happy to lead you in the pledge and then introduce the chaplain. Pledge allegiance to the U.S. flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And to the Georgia flag, I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Good morning. I'm happy to bring to you our chaplain of the day, Rabbi Mario Caput. I'm pleased to introduce our rabbi, who is the rabbi at the Congregation Or Hadash in Sandy Springs. Rabbi Caput was born in Argentina. He received his ordination from the Seminario Rabbinico Latino Americano Marshall T. Meyer in 1994 and served as a pulpit rabbi in Argentina, Israel, Cuba, and Chile. Rabbi Karpush moved with his family to Atlanta and joined the Ahavath Akim Synagogue's clergy in the year 2000, 16 short years ago, and he's been very busy and involved and engaged since that time. He and his wife of over 25 years, Rabbi Dr. Analia Bortz, founded the Congregation Or Hadash in 2003, located in Sandy Springs, and he describes it as the most meaningful and exciting professional endeavor that they have been involved with. They've built a congregation in this short time of over 400 families with a house of worship, from a repurposed industrial space, and have been leading that congregation since 2003 in its active spiritual, community, artistic, and civic life. I'll tell you a few of the many things in which he's been involved. He's a board member of the Atlanta chapter of the American Jewish Committee and has served as the rabbi in residence of their international meeting for 6 years. He is very proud of the fact that he became an American citizen in 2010. Throughout his years in Atlanta, he's dedicated himself to interfaith dialogue and advocacy as a member of the advisory board of the Interfaith Community Initiatives and a leader in the World Pilgrims Program. It's an Atlanta-based project in which Jews, Christians, and Muslims participate in interfaith pilgrimages to countries around the world. He's been a board member of the Faith Alliance of Metropolitan Atlanta and a member of the Sandy Springs Interfaith Clergy Association. Rabbi Karpush loves music and poetry, and is an active bicycle enthusiast. He and his wife, Rabbi Dr. Analia Bortz, are the proud parents of 2 daughters, Tamar and Adina, who have launched themselves into the world, ages 24 and 19. Won't you join me this morning in giving a warm welcome to Rabbi Mario Caput?
Lieutenant Governor Cage, Senator Orrock, members of this distinguished Senate, members of the law enforcement forces present today, and dear friends, good morning. I'm honored and humbled to be standing in front of you today. If someone had told me 16 years ago, when I first moved to this country, that I would one day be standing in front of this house to lead you in prayer, I would have looked at that person with a particular degree of suspicion and disbelief. It's just that I didn't know yet of the amazing opportunities that this blessed land gives to all those who have dreams and work hard to make those opportunities realities. But here I am, a rabbi raised in Argentina who was blessed with an invitation to join this beloved community, which I call home, since the year 2000. I'm a disciple of an American teacher, Rabbi Marshall Mayer of blessed memory, that taught me that a religious person has to hold the Bible in one hand and the newspaper in the other. It's when we combine the teachings of our sacred texts with the realities that the world around us presents us that we can actually become and aspire to become truly partners of our Creator in building a just and sacred community. Let me share with you that during these last weeks, Jews around the world have been reading in the Bible texts about the building of the tabernacle by the children of Israel while they were in the desert in their journey to the promised land. Let me tell you that the building instructions filled with details that are sometimes difficult to understand and that they repeat themselves several times in a surprising fashion if you consider that the biblical text is general, very concise, and generally lack of many details, can be at times seem like boring. It is only when we read God's reason to command the children of Israel the building of that tabernacle that we can start to grasp the meaning of it all. Let them make me a tabernacle, and I will dwell within them, says the Lord. The tabernacle, literally representing the dwelling place, the place where God and God's people meet. It was there that God's divine presence manifested in the midst of humanity. In the process of constructing this relatively very small building is when God transformed God's self from the awesome divine other, unapproachable and incomprehensible, to the intimate divine beloved, present in the midst of humanity. It is the act of bringing a manifestation of the divine presence into our lives that actualizes the opening of the heart, that in turn makes intimacy possible. And that's why the entire people join in this building. They're so enthusiastic about it that Moses had to come at some point and say, stop bringing things, we have enough for everybody. Everybody wants to be part of that because it's so central, because it changes the discussion, it changes the space, it makes the place a sacred one. Again and again in the biblical text, we're told of the generosity of heart and nobility of spirit of those who contributed to the building. This is a generosity not only of possessions, but one that reaches even deeper, as we are told, take from yourselves an offering to God, all the generous of heart. That is a literal taking from yourselves, your experience, your wisdom, and particularity, and offering to the beloved. Now, inviting God into their midst, the natural generosity of intimacy is properly expressed. Just as God is ultimately both foreign and intimate, both self and other, so this is true of our fellow human beings. We can experience our fellow human beings as alienated, even antagonistic, others, or we can choose to see the other as intimate, beloved companions. And this is, distinguished friends, the message of the biblical text. It is often easy to feel disconnected and not responsible for those who are most other, most unlike us. The challenge and the promise of the tabernacle is that when we can bridge those gaps and gives our fellow humans reflections of the divine image, a place to dwell in our hearts, minds, and soul, that we really can call ourselves God's partners. Once we had the tabernacle, a concrete building that represented God's presence in our midst. Now we have only our hearts, hearts that can be dwelling place for the divine presence in our lives, if and only if we open them wide enough. We can make space for every human being to dwell there, and so become filled with a generosity that comes from transforming the other into the beloved. If we gather in those who will come close to the community, regardless of their background, and they give of themselves, surely we will be building a community where God's presence chooses to dwell. Let's pray together. Please rise. Our God and God of our ancestors, God of compassion, God of justice, God of peace, we ask your blessing for the members of this state senate, for our city, for our state, for our country, and for all our leaders. Grant them, O God, the ability to lead us with true understanding of your vision, so that this land under your providence be an influence for good throughout the world. Protect the men and women of our law enforcement forces who stand sometimes in harm's way, so that we may enjoy the blessing of freedom and liberty. May it be your will to keep them out of harm's ways, healthy and safe, so they can return to their families and loved ones every day. Let us remember where we come from, so that we may never forget the destination of our journey as a state and as a nation. Let us be always mindful that we are all your children. Give us the wisdom to be your partners in creating a space in which you will choose to dwell within us, so we can enjoy your blessings. And let us say, Amen.
Are there any unanimous consents? We have some special recognitions we would like to do at this time. Senator from the 42nd. Secretary will read a resolution. Let me have the Senate's attention as we recognize some special guests.
Senate Resolution 991 by Senators Parent of the 42nd, Schaefer of the 48th, Unterman of the 45th, McCoon of the 29th, Orrock of the 36th, and others, a resolution recognizing the month of April 2016 as Genocide Prevention and Awareness Month at the Capitol and for other purposes. Whereas the goal of Genocide Prevention and Awareness Month is to educate the public about the history of previous and contemporary genocides. And whereas throughout history, numerous genocides originated or stemmed from events that occurred in April, and as a result, many institutions around the world have designated April to be a month of genocide prevention and awareness. And whereas it is abundantly fitting and proper to recognize the contributions of the Georgia Coalition to Prevent Genocide, Am Yisrael Hai, Eternal Life Hymn-Sheik of Holocaust Survivors, and other groups. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize the month of April 2016 as Genocide Prevention and Awareness Month at the Capitol and commend the Georgia Coalition to Prevent Genocide for its dedicated efforts in preventing genocide. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chairs none. The resolution is adopted. Speak to the resolution and recognize our very special guest. I call upon the distinguished senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. It is my privilege to present the resolution declaring April as Genocide Prevention and Awareness Month in Georgia. And before I tell you a little bit about what we are hoping to combat and raise awareness about in April, I want to introduce the guests that I have with me. Please join me in welcoming Melanie Nelkin, Harvey Rickles, Martin Gamiji, Dove Wilker, and Dr. Van Kasabian. Colleagues, it was during World War II in April that a Polish lawyer of Jewish descent, Raphael Lemkin, coined the term genocide to describe the coordinated plan of actions aimed at the destruction of essential foundations of life of certain groups with the aim of annihilating those groups. And throughout history, April has been a month where numerous genocides originated or stem from events occurring during that month. And so that's why we want to take a moment to reflect during April, to raise awareness about genocides past and present, to do whatever we can to eliminate such horrors that still occur around the globe. I'm just going to take a moment before turning it over to Melanie Nelkin to discuss a couple of the horrific genocides that have occurred and are occurring. In April 1933, the Nazis issued a decree preparing the way for the final solution to destroy anyone who was non-Aryan. In 1975, Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge took power in Cambodia and conducted widespread killings of people belonging to specific groups. During 1992 through 1995 in Sarajevo, deaths of 200,000 Bosniaks or Bosnian Muslims. In April 1994, that's when the Rwandan president's airplane was shot down, which led to the slaying of 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus. And today, we have genocides occurring by Daesh, the so-called Islamic State. That's in the news every day. And colleagues, let's take a minute to think about those who are murdered today around the globe because of their religious or ethnic heritage, to pledge that we will do whatever we can in our capacities as elected officials, as citizens, to speak against, to raise awareness, and to stop coordinated killings of people due to who they are, their religious background, their minority sect, their ethnicity, or the color of their skin. Please join me in welcoming Melanie Nelkin to speak more about what we will do to combat these horrific events.
Thank you, Senator Parent. It is with enormous gratitude that I've been given the honor and the privilege to stand in this great state's Senate chambers to address you. I can't begin to thank Senator Perrin enough for her continued support and encouragement. I'm also grateful that Lieutenant Governor Cagle and President Pro Temp Schaefer has invited me here today. As Senator Perrin said, I'm joined today by community leaders who have firsthand ties to memories of genocide. Please welcome Dove Wilker, who's the Executive Director of the American Jewish Committee, Harvey Rickles, the President of the Jewish Community Relations Council of Atlanta, Martin Gamiji, who is representing our Rwandan community here in Atlanta, and Dr. Van Kasabian, who is the Armenian Assembly State Chair of Georgia. Zachor is the Hebrew word meaning remember. But it is not enough to remember what happened. We must remember in order to learn why people let it happen. To remember is also to educate others so that the lessons of the genocides in our history will inspire future generations to recognize, combat, and ultimately extinguish the hatred that breeds genocides like the Holocaust and the genocides of Armenia and Rwanda and others. Today is the 5th anniversary of this resolution declaring April as Genocide Prevention and Awareness Month in Georgia. Why April? Because throughout history, numerous genocides have related events that occurred in April, and as a result, many institutions around the world have also designated April to be the month we typically associate with emerging daffodils with commemorative events honoring survivors and victims. On April 18th, we will amplify our voices by welcoming Carl Wilkins to Atlanta. He was the only American to remain in Rwanda during the genocide, and he saved hundreds of orphans in the process. His narrative is one that challenges all of us to move beyond being a witness and move closer to action. 2 days from now, on March 4th, will mark the 7th anniversary of the International Criminal Court issuing the first arrest warrant in history to a sitting president for the crimes of genocide. Omar al-Bashir, who is the president of Sudan, was indicted on crimes of genocide in Darfur, which continues today. It was on that same day in 2009, a small group of Georgia genocide prevention activists assembled in then Senator David Edelman's office, along with his brilliant, energetic legislative aide, who you may know today as Senator Elena Parent. And over the course of the day, we were armed with the news from the ICC. The list of co-sponsors from the Georgia Senate grew, and SB 170 was passed, which prevents certain companies who are fueling the genocide in Darfur from doing business in this great state of Georgia. April is about Zachor, and throughout the deeds of commemoration and education, may we also be poised to recognize that that prevention is possible. And I'd like to also thank some of our supporters in the gallery for coming today, from the JCRC, AJC, and others. Thank you so much for having us.
We have another special group and guest we would like to recognize. Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 1050 by Senators Harper of the 7th, Schaefer of the 48th, Cowsert of the 46th, Henson of the 41st, Gooch of the 51st, and others. A resolution recognizing March 2nd, 2016 as Law Enforcement Appreciation Day at the State Capitol and commending certified peace officers in Georgia and for other purposes. Whereas, in Georgia's history, we have lost 672 officers in the line of duty, and just within the past year, we lost 6 of those officers. And whereas the Georgia Public Safety Memorial Wall was dedicated to honor these brave men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice while protecting life and property in the proud tradition of the public safety services. And whereas Georgia certified peace officers put their lives on the line every day as they serve with honor, courage, dignity, and concern for their fellow citizens. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize March 2nd, 2016 as Law Enforcement Appreciation Day at the State Capitol and commend certified peace officers in Georgia for protecting our communities and for putting their lives on the line every day. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair is none. The resolution is adopted. It is great to welcome and have our Law Enforcement Day at the State Capitol. We do appreciate so many that make so much sacrifice for our freedoms that we enjoy each and every day. And it's great for the Senate to pause to remember not only those that are still in uniform, but those that are fallen as well. To speak to the resolution, I call upon the distinguished Public Safety Committee Chairman, the Senator from the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. Today is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day at the Capitol. If you haven't realized that already, with the number of law enforcement officers from across the state that are here with us. In Georgia, we have about 54,000 law enforcement officers across the state. 40,000 of those serve in our local communities, in sheriff departments and police departments, as well as in our local jails. And we also have about 14,000 officers on the state level in serving in different roles and capacities. And today is just a day to show our appreciation for what they do and making sure that we're protected across our state and that we have a safe place to live, work, and raise a family, and making sure that what the goals and the accomplishments that we have here in the legislature to make sure that Georgia continues to be a great place to do business and to live and work. These guys make sure that we have a safe place to make sure that that all happens. And you know, I have a lot of the agency heads and sheriffs behind me, and but it's really and truly the guys on the local level, the guys that are in the field, the guys that are in the car, the guy that gets out on the side of the road, the guy that goes on the call, that are truly the ones that are the backbone of the safety and security. And a lot of those guys are in the gallery. They're the ones that answer the call. They're the front line for the state of Georgia in regards to our public safety. And we're glad that they're here so we can recognize them today. We're glad and we appreciate the service that they provide our state. And I want y'all to help me recognize these individuals. Please help me show our appreciation for what they're doing. I'm going to ask them to stand in the gallery. If all the law enforcement officers would stand up, so give us an opportunity to say thank you for your service to our state. These men and women in uniform do a lot for our state, and we appreciate everything that you do, and thank you for being here with us. On the rostrum today, I have a couple of guys behind me. I'm going to introduce them real quick. We have a past president of the Georgia Sheriff's Association, Sheriff Mike Yeager from Coweta County. We appreciate him being with us, representing the Sheriff's Association. The Colonel of the State Patrol, the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, Colonel Mark McDonough. We have the Commissioner of the Department of Natural Resources, Mark Williams, his Deputy Commissioner, Walter Rayburn, and also the Colonel of the Law Enforcement Division for DNR, Colonel Eddie Henderson, Director of GBI, Vernon Keenan, the Commissioner of the Department of Corrections, Homer Bryson, is with us, the Commissioner of the newest Department of Community Supervision, Commissioner Michael Nail, and also the Commissioner of the Department of Juvenile Justice today, Commissioner Avery Niles. Y'all give these guys a round of applause as well for their service to our state. Thank you very much in helping us recognize them.
Well done. Well done. Getting a picture? Yeah, let's get us a picture. We have some more special guests we'd like to recognize at this time, and Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 1017 by Senators Mullis of the 53rd, Cowsert of the 46th, Miller of the 49th, Jackson of the 24th, Tate of the 38th, and others. A resolution recognizing March 2nd, 2016 as Georgia Music Day at the state capitol and for other purposes. Whereas the year 2016 is the year of music in Georgia, presenting an opportunity to celebrate the state's musical talent as a true global asset. And whereas the music industry in Georgia, including teachers, musicians, songwriters, producers, and engineers, is estimated to have generated more than $3.8 billion in economic impact and nearly 20,000 jobs, enhances the $48 billion creative economy in Georgia, and enriches churches, hospitals, schools, and performing arts centers all over the state. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize March 2nd, 2016 as Georgia Music Day at the state capitol. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chairs none. The resolution is adopted. Music Day at the Capitol. We appreciate so much the great tradition and heritage that we have in our state, and there's no greater champion for our music industry than the senator from the 53rd, and I recognize him now to speak to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, today is this is the year of Georgia music, and as the governor said, our music history is grand and great and deep. The Department of Economic Development has recognized this year as the year of Georgia music, and as chair of the Senate Music Industry and the co-chair of the Friends of Georgia Music, we have worked for a number of years to recognize great talent from our state and with the Georgia Music Hall of Fame Awards. I look forward to working with these talents and artists to continue to pave the way to Georgia remain a musical force that to be reckoned with throughout the nation. So please help welcome a talented group of industry professionals with a number of Grammy Awards to their credit. And with that, I want to introduce John Hopkins with the Zach Brown Band. Please welcome John.
Thanks, everyone, and thanks for being a part of our passion and a part of what we do for a living and for our lives. I'd like to introduce my friends behind me. This is Jan Smith. She is the vocal coach for Georgia, among others. She is very well known in her field. And Mr. Tricky Stewart, a producer and songwriter here in Atlanta who has been helping us put lots of people on the map. Mr. Matt Still, producer and mixer for Elton John and Lady Gaga, who is also a member of our Grammy board. Mr. Nick Nespajani, who is one of the founding members of the Yacht Rock Review, entertaining thousands and thousands of happy people. And Mr. Peter Stroud, one of the best guitar players I've ever had the pleasure of knowing, and playing with Sheryl Crow and Don Henley these days. Jan, correct me if I'm wrong. Mama Jan told me something on the way in, and it was, I've taken from Mama Jan as well. And one of the things she said was that music is one of the only things that can enter your heart and your spirit and your mind without your permission. I think very quickly and very simply, one of the things that we all share up here as musicians and proponents of Georgia Music Day is that we love living in and working in the state of Georgia. And we want everyone else who surrounds us and who comes to visit to love that as well. So thank you again for your support of Georgia Music Day, and thank you from the bottom of our hearts as we continue on our paths in the musical industry. And it's our honor and our privilege to be here with you today. Thank you.
Here. John Hopkins is president. Of what?
Oh, did you? What, down at the amphitheater?
We just started. We want to inspire the music industry.
Well, funny, I wasn't with her at that. Oh, really? Yeah. But I've been with her. That year she put together this. I was at that show too. Yeah. Awesome. She is self-sufficient. Come up right behind us. She is. I'm Nick.
Okay, yes, sir. Secretary will read another resolution as we recognize some more special guests.
Senate Resolution 1007 by Senators Burke of the 11th, Unterman of the 45th, Miller of the 49th, Harbison of the 15th, Huffstetler of the 52nd, and others. A resolution commending Georgia Corps and recognizing March 2nd, 2016 as Georgia Corps Day at the state capitol and for other purposes. Whereas millions of Americans, both adults and children, are impacted by cancer and cancer-related diseases annually, and thousands of those individuals will be diagnosed in Georgia this year with some form of cancer. And whereas the Georgia Center for Oncology Research and Education is a public-private partnership based in Atlanta, which works diligently in its efforts to provide higher quality, better organized, and more cost-effective cancer care to all citizens of the state, with funding coming from individual contributions, various grants, and support from foundations, clinical trials, and research grants, tobacco settlement funds, and the breast cancer license tag proceeds. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend Georgia Corps for years of effective, efficient, unselfish, and dedicated public service to the citizens of the state and recognize March 2nd, 2016 as Georgia Corps Day at the state capitol. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The resolution is adopted. It is a great honor that we have the distinguished guests that are present with us today. Obviously doing great work around cancer. It's my honor now to recognize the senator from the 11th to recognize our special guest.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think most of us in this room have been affected by cancer at one time or another, whether it's a spouse, a child, a cousin, mother, or father. We are doing tremendous work in the state of Georgia to prevent cancer from continuing the toll that it's taken on our community, both from an emotional standpoint as well as the economic impact it has. We're very lucky in our state to have dedicated professionals who spend their life doing research and coming up with new treatments to extend the lives of cancer patients. I want to recognize today the folks from Georgia Corps, and Georgia Corps stands for the Georgia Center for Oncology Research and Education. They're a public-private partnership dedicated to investigating new cancer treatments, doing research, and educating the new physicians that will be doing that research in the future. Today I want to recognize some folks from the Cancer Society. A friend of mine from Thomasville, Lynn Lincolnfield, is here today. To introduce the members of the panel, we have Dr. Roland Matthews. He's the chair at Morehouse University. He's the director of the Cancer Center at Grady. He's former president of the OBGYN Society and a friend of mine, Dr. Matthews.
Thank you very much, Dr. Burke. And on behalf of Georgia Corps, I'd like to thank you for the honor of recognizing Georgia Corps today. We'd like to thank all the senators and representatives for their recognition and for understanding that Georgia Corps is doing important work for our patients in the state of Georgia affected with cancer. I'd like to introduce some of the members of Georgia Corps. Ms. Fullerton, Ms. Paris, and Ms. Patterson who work very hard to make sure the work of Georgia Corps is carried out. As was said, cancer affects most of us, most of our families in some way or the other at some time during our life. And Georgia Corps is working with the universities in Georgia, as well as the practices in Georgia, to make sure clinical trials is available to all our patients in Georgia, no matter where they live in Georgia, whether it be the cities or the rural areas. We're also making sure that we provide appropriate care to the patients of Georgia with cancer, no matter what their ability to pay. So we're doing that through innovative research, making sure that clinical trials are available to the rural areas and the rural counties of Georgia. And we have done that over the years and have elevated cancer care in Georgia. So our state is moving up as providing some of the best cancer care in the United States. And we'd like to continue that, so we thank you for your support in helping us, collaborating with the government as well as with the private industry to make sure that this continues in the state. It is important to note that we were the first state to have a state consortium to provide clinical trials to the entire patients of all the in the entire state. And now we have 2 NIH-sponsored clinical trial programs in the state of Georgia, really the first for any state. So we should be proud as a state as to what we're doing to provide this care to our patients. And with your support and continued help, we will continue to do this and elevate cancer care for all our patients. Thank you very much.
Senator, hold. Would like to present the Doctor of the Day, and to do so, it's my honor now to recognize the Senator from the 38th.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. We're honored to have today Dr. Aisha Redmond. She is an obstetrician gynecologist practicing in Kaiser Permanente's Town Park Comprehensive Medical Center. Dr. Redmond received her medical degree from the University of Pennsylvania and completed her internship and residency right here at our own renowned Emory University. She joined Kaiser Permanente in 2006 and has held several leadership roles in the medical group. Her practice focuses on conservative treatment options and minimally invasive surgical procedures. She understands the importance of educating patients in a way that makes them comfortable with the care they receive and empowered to make the best decisions for their care. Dr. Redmond enjoys spending time with her family. She has volunteered with the Spirit Foundation, a nonprofit organization raising awareness of cervical cancer. Colleagues, please, well, before that, she is also Representative Dickerson's stepdaughter. So we're really happy to have her, and please, colleagues, help welcome our Doctor of the Day, Dr. Aisha Redmond.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been, we've been here for 2 hours and it's been quite busy. So please come and see us if you need anything. Thank you again for having us.
I went back there to find you and you weren't in.
Oh, okay.
You were hustling boats.
We want to do another personal point of privilege to introduce Ross King to the state capitol. So we never see him.
He says he put his time in earlier. Good to see you.
How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Tell you what, we got all the big dogs here today.
Secretary will read and announce, excuse me, Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 1005 by Senators Gooch of the 51st, Schaefer of the 48th, Cowsert of the 46th, Henson of the 41st, Butler of the 55th, and others. A resolution commending and congratulating James F. Grubiak and for other purposes. Whereas James F. Grubiak has long been recognized as one of the most competent and knowledgeable masters of the specialized arcana of local government law. And whereas Jim's service to the public began in 1972 with the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, where he served as planner, community impact coordinator for military base expansions, state director of the Appalachian Regional Commission Program, DCA Economic Development Section Chief, and Coast Zone Advisory Council member. And whereas for 40 regular and special legislative sessions, Jim has worked tirelessly to help craft countless pieces of legislation to help local governments provide better services to their citizens. And whereas he is an honest and dedicated public servant who strives for excellence in all endeavors and whose primary concern is the proper operation of the county governments of Georgia. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that James F. Grubiak is commended for the 44 years of effective, efficient, and unselfish and dedicated service that he has rendered to the people of Georgia, and extend the utmost appreciation for his having so purely and truly defined for others, through his time employed by the state of Georgia and the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia, the meaning of public service. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chairs none, and the resolution is adopted. Jim has obviously given so much of his life to public service and has been a great resource to all of us over the years, and it is a great honor to recognize him and his service here today. To do so, I call upon the distinguished senator from the 51st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. Senators, we have a lot of county commissioners in the building today, and I'd like to recognize those that are with us in the Senate, all the county commissioners and all the staff members of ACCG. Please stand and be recognized. We do appreciate your hard work and your service to our state and our citizens. Today is ACCG District Day, so if you're in those districts, we encourage you, senators, to get with your county commissioners today at lunch and share some of the things that are going on here in the Capitol this year. We are honored to have Jim Grubiak with us this morning. We're going to honor him for 44 years of public service. After graduating with a master's degree in urban and regional planning from Auburn, that's right, from Auburn, Jim ended up working for the Georgia Department of Community Affairs in 1972. After nearly a decade at Community Affairs, Jim earned his law degree and began work at ACCG in 1982. He served numerous posts all the way up to General Counsel, which he now holds. Jim has Grubiaked the programs and operations of the ACCG, advancing the organization over the years. Helped establish the ACCG's retirement and insurance programs. He's also a mentor to so many ACCG staff and local government attorneys. Jim has worked on over 40 legislative sessions, and he will mark his retirement on July 1st of this year with 44 years of service to Georgia. Now, I've known Jim for many, many years. My days back when I was a Soule County Commissioner in 2000 is where I first came across this organization behind me, and I can tell you they work very hard every day for the citizens. But I spent most of my time working with Jim over the years trying to figure out what it is the General Assembly had just done to us while we were county commissioners. And I could probably get an amen up there in the gallery from that But Jim is a strong supporter of the state General Assembly and all the work we do here, and he loves the country and our democracy. And I want to recognize Charlotte Nash to come forward and recognize some of the other members behind me, and who will also ask Jim Grubiak to come forward with some brief comments. But Charlotte is the chairman of the Gwinnett County Board of Commissioners, so please welcome Charlotte Nash.
Thank you for the chance to be here and your willingness to help honor Jim Grubiak for his service to the state of Georgia and to the counties of Georgia. We're very fortunate to have had him as a steady guiding hand on so many things that have happened over the last several decades. Here with us, besides the members of your august body, we have Tommy Line, who is the incoming president. I have less than 2 months to serve out now, so he will be taking over. It's a great ride, but it's been very busy. And we have Ross King, who's the executive director of ACCG. And we have, besides Mr. Grubiak, we have his lovely wife, Andrea. I will say thanks to y'all for your public service. We don't always say thank you. You don't hear it often enough. We know about that at the local level. We do appreciate what you do for the state of Georgia and the things that you choose not to do sometimes. I've been talking to Andrea just a little bit about what she may want to do to help Jim find something to do in his retirement. My husband didn't discourage me from running for office, so I've suggested that might be a way for him to spend some retirement time. At this time, I'm going to offer the mic to Jim. He may have a word or two to say to each of you here, but thank you again for allowing us this time that he can be honored for his long service to the entire state of Georgia.
Well, thank you, Charlotte. And so much has already been said that I don't need to add much to it. I'm going to be very, very brief. I know you all are very busy, need to get on with your work today. So I just really want to thank all of you for honoring me with this resolution. It really is an honor, and it's been a pleasure working with this body for the past 34 years representing county governments. It's been also made easy by the fact that we've had a great staff all these years, and my wife actually supports me in this. Sometimes you have to wonder about all the hours spent down here, but she's been terrific on that. And so thanks to the ACCG staff as well. Thanks to this body for all the great work you all have done over the years, and I know you have great things yet to come. So again, thank you very much.
Let's get, where's Senator from the 11th or Senator from the 1st? Where are they at? Okay. All right, let me have the Senate's attention now. I think everything looks like it's going to be just fine. So let's bring the Senate back to order. First of all, let me say what a great honor it is to welcome the senator from the 53rd's very first daughter that he is extremely proud of. Amanda Mullis is with us today. It's an honor to have Amanda present. Amanda is a physical fitness trainer. You can tell by looking at her, although she has not had any success whatsoever with a senator from the 53rd. So obviously, we are questioning various aspects of the validity of all of this. But anyway, very good. We are ready to start on some points of personal privilege. Chair will recognize first the senator from the 53rd. Is recognized first on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, as Ronald Reagan once said to Jimmy Carter, well, there you go again. The House took up 3 bills today. You know which ones? House Resolution, House Resolution, and House Resolution. What are we to do? We have 2 House bills on the floor today. They have no Senate bills on the House floor today. Well, as your chair of Senate Rules, I'm very saddened with that. These are the House Rules Committee members. And they need to hear some Senate bills. Thank you, Mr. President.
The Rules Committee chair has spoken. Let the word go forth. Chair recognizes Senator from the 14th.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the body. It's always an honor when you have young people that come from your district that come down and see how government works. Today, we're honored to have 2 groups that are in our chamber. We have Adairsville Middle School, their government club cast with Tia Wilkes, and we also have Cass Middle Ambassadors with Tracy Moore. Please welcome these young people as they study government and understand exactly how things happen to better our region. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Senator 21st on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, today is Reading Across America Day, and I'm very privileged to have Crabapple Crossing Elementary, 210 students visiting the Capitol to learn about government, and let's give them a round of applause. And I want to thank the teachers for all you do for our children. Stand up. Thank you all for coming down. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Thank you so much. That's a good-looking group there. Thank y'all for being with us. Appreciate it very, very much. Chair recognizes Senator from the 29th on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, in the ongoing fight over religious freedom legislation, we have now heard that the corporate leadership at Twitter has decided to sign onto the pledge saying that they oppose protections of religious freedom. I suppose we should not be surprised by that, since in 2012, Twitter began to collaborate with tyrannical regimes around the world to allow censorship of their own service, leading Reporters Without Borders to send them a letter demanding that they cease this practice, that they stop collaborating with repressive regimes to prevent people from expressing themselves using their own online platform. We've seen more recently Twitter censor voices, primarily voices on the right, by either blocking their accounts, taking away their verified status. So we shouldn't be surprised that if Twitter doesn't like the free speech part of the First Amendment, that they also would object to the free exercise part of the First Amendment. And I know I received a letter via email today, I assume most of you did as well, from Salesforce. And in the email, they call on us to abandon the First Amendment Defense Act. I think it's instructive to read the email and see what words are missing. For example, the email says, "We support the efforts of the Metro Atlanta Chamber and other major employers in the state who are working to protect all Georgians against discrimination." And there's a period. There ought to be a little bit more language. "Except people of faith who have sincere religious beliefs. It's okay to discriminate against them. It's okay for government to punish them." That is the position that Salesforce takes over and over again. And as long as this debate has been going on, I have drawn this body's attention time and again to the fact that while the leadership of this company uses the Georgia General Assembly as a convenient foil, while pretending that House Bill 757 is something other than a modest protection of religious freedom, they do business in India, they do business in Singapore, countries where being homosexual is a crime, countries where acting, living out your sexual orientation is an offense that can lead to 2 years of imprisonment. Now, finally, and I thank the Atlanta Journal-Constitution for asking executives at Salesforce, what about this glaring hypocrisy? And they issued a statement where they said, well, we're talking about Georgia. And at the end of it, they said, however, we do whatever we can to protect our employees and customers from discrimination. Well, that's just simply not true. They have voluntarily chosen to invest in countries where being homosexual is a crime. So if they mean what they say, then it should be very simple. If they're really saying we'll do whatever we can, I have a modest suggestion. Simply pull out of India and Singapore. Get your business operations out of there. Stop spending money. Stop paying taxes to prop up regimes that have actual anti-gay laws. There was also reporting about certain conventions, Dragon Con, the sociologists' convention, that might choose to go elsewhere if we dare protect the religious freedom of the 10 million citizens of this state. And I just wonder, when we talk about these companies, Mr. President, can we add some desks in the back of the chamber so that we can run, any public policy that we have before this body to make sure that no one is going to be made uncomfortable and decide to leave the state. And the fact of the matter is, what this all comes down to is that people want to create a new right, a right to not be offended. And as I said the other day, in a free society, the price of admission is you're going to be offended. You're going to be offended by something somebody says or does. But if we stop protecting sincerely held religious beliefs, if we say we're going to aggregate to the government the authority to determine what you may or may not believe, or what religious practices you may or may not engage in, then it's not just an assault on religious freedom. It's an assault on every single one of our individual civil liberties. Today, we're talking about free exercise. Tomorrow, we may be talking about the Second Amendment, but the argument would be exactly the same. And so it is time here and now to draw the line and say, we're going to stand up. We're going to stand up for each and every individual civil liberty protected by the Constitution, and we are not going to be extorted into abandoning sound public policy because a couple of folks who are far left decide that they're going to attempt to extort the state of Georgia. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 1070 by Senators Kirk of the 13th, Burke of the 11th, Sims of the 12th, Bethel of the 54th, Williams of the 19th, and others. A resolution recognizing March 2nd, 2016 as Georgia Southwestern State University Day at the state capitol and for other purposes. Whereas, for 110 years, Georgia Southwestern State University has been providing higher education on its historic campus in Americus, Georgia. And whereas notable Georgians who have attended Georgia Southwestern State University include former President Jimmy Carter, former First Lady Rosalind Carter, the late Judge Griffin Bell, and the current commander of the Georgia Army National Guard, Brigadier General Thomas Carden. And whereas in athletics, Georgia Southwestern is a member of the Peach Belt Conference and competes in 10 total sports. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize March 2nd, 2016 as Georgia Southwestern State University Day at the state capitol. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chairs none. The resolution is adopted. We really appreciate our wonderful universities across our state, and Georgia Southwestern continues to make us very, very proud in providing a quality-based education to so many of our kids throughout our state and abroad. It's my honor now to call upon the distinguished senator from Americus, the senator from the 13th, to recognize our special guest.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. It is an honor to recognize Georgia Southwestern today. It's been a very vital part of my life, being born and raised in Americus, Georgia. I can remember the first memories I have is my great-grandfather always taking walks in the afternoons, and he'd always go by the tennis courts at the college, and he'd bring home a big old bag of tennis balls almost every day. So that's my first memories, but I've had a lot of friends that graduated there, family that went to school there. My daughter's enrolled there now. I'd like to recognize Interim President Charles Patterson today, Vice President Brian Adler, Student Body President Sam Price, and Director of University Relations Stephen Snyder today. And the President will come and accept this resolution.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor. Senator Greg Kirk, Dean Burke, Freddie Powell Sims, Charlie Bethel, Tommy Williams, Michael Williams, and members of the General Assembly, thank you so much for your support of this great university. Georgia Southwestern State University has indeed been providing higher education for 110 years. This remains true today as we provide over 50 bachelor's and master's programs in arts and sciences, business administration, computing and mathematics, education, and nursing. We remain dedicated to the affordability of higher education and have recently been ranked as the most affordable small college in Georgia by 2 separate ranking authorities. The growth of Georgia Southwestern State University is a top priority for the university system of Georgia, our faculty, staff, administration, as well as the people of Americus and Sumter County and surrounding communities. The university continues to grow both in size and reputation, with 3% enrollment growth in the last year and another 4% expected in the next year as well. I want to express my personal thanks to Chancellor Hank Huckabee for entrusting me with the leadership of such a great university, to the members of our local delegation for all their support, and the members of the General Assembly. Thank you very much for your support of Georgia Southwestern State University.
All right. Well done. Well said. Appreciate it very much. Good. Good to see you. Let's step down and get a picture on the steps, all right? Senator from the 45th, were you wishing to be recognized? You'll be recognized now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, as y'all recall, in the last 6 years, we have worked extensively on child sex trafficking and human slavery. I wanted to invite you tonight to Commissioner Tim Echols is having his Unholy Tour. And what we do is we meet at 6 o'clock right out here at the CLOB. You board a big bus and we go on a tour of the quote-unquote red light districts in Fulton and DeKalb counties. And at the same time, we have a group called For Sarah, which is a nonprofit group that is trying to rescue young girls and women who are unfortunately caught in the travesty of human slavery. So I wanted to invite you tonight. We do serve a light dinner aboard the bus so that you don't have to go out and be in a rush and eat first. So if you would like to go, I have the flyers here if you would see me, or if your Senate aides or any of your staff would like to go on to the tour, we would love to have them go with us. Thank you very much, and I yield the well.
We recognize the senator from the 11th to recognize some special guests that are present with us today.
Thank you, Mr. President. Georgia's a football state. I know every one of us in the room appreciates a good football game on Friday night. I am blessed to represent Colquitt County, and the Colquitt County Packers are here today at the Capitol, and I wanted to recognize them with a special presentation. They're 30-0. 30-0. That's pretty good for a football team, ranked number 1 in the country at the end of the last season. We've got Coach Rush Probst over here. We've got some of his seniors, Jay Blakely, who's going to Tennessee. Dee Walker's going to Arkansas. Keel Pollard going to South Carolina. Class Parrish going to the Naval Academy. I butchered his name, but go Navy. He's got 25 players that have signed a contract to further their education and continue to play football, and I think that's wonderful. We want to recognize the members of his team that are in the gallery. I think some of them have made it up that way. Y'all would stand up and let people see who you are. That's the seniors of the Colquitt County Packers. They're obviously doing a great job raising young leaders in Colquitt County, and we appreciate them being with us today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Recognize senator from the 50th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. We're getting ready to kick off pre-K week in Georgia today. We're working a little bit ahead of the curve because pre-K week is the first week in October every year. And according to statistics they gave me, some of you might want to pay attention. They tell me 82% of you have participated in pre-K week in red, and they've given me the names of those of you who haven't. So they really didn't do that. But I want to encourage you to be a part of Pre-K Week. We have some guests with us today over here. I'd like to recognize them. Raise your hand, please. Commissioner Amy Jacobs of the Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning. Emily Pelton, the Executive Director of Voices for Georgia's Children. Susan Adams, the Deputy Commissioner. And last but certainly not least, Callie, Decal's new mascot. You know, Georgia has a great pre-K program. We have 337,000 of our children who are currently in the early care and education industry, and more than half of our 4-year-olds participate in the pre-K program. I would like to encourage you this October, the first week in October, I'd like to congratulate our pre-K officials on the great job that you do. We know that our children are our most valuable human resource, and I encourage all of you to participate. And also, before I close, I would like to say, just before I walked up here, the senator from the 49th reminded me that he just doesn't participate and read the first week of October. He works on it year-round, so I'd encourage the rest of you to do the same. Thank you.
Well, I hope he'll start by reading a few of these bills he's voting on. Chair recognizes Senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my pleasure to honor a group of young people in the audience in the balcony today with family connections from Telfair, Montgomery, Wheeler, Truland, Toombs County, South Georgia Youth Coalition. If you all would stand and let them recognize you, we appreciate you being here today. Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 2nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Friends, we all know that we lost a dear friend and colleague last week, State Representative Bob Bryant. The funeral arrangements will be March the 5th at 12 noon at Temple of Glory Church in Savannah, Georgia. All legislators are asked to be there at 11:30. So, and we will march in together. We lost a great man, a great statesman, a visionary for Georgia, State Representative Bob Bryant, and he will be laid to rest on March the 5th. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 36th. 36, you wish to be 36 is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise briefly today to call your attention in the event that you had not noticed a disturbing trend that is occurring, and it occurred most recently at Valdosta State, down in the southern part of this great state of Georgia, and that is at a rally for a political candidate for president, that would be Donald Trump. Students of that university, duly enrolled, tuition-paying students at Valdosta State, were expelled from that event on state property in a state school, a school funded by our state taxpayer dollars. Students duly enrolled, these young African-American students, attended that rally to satisfy their intellectual curiosity about what would be said and done at that rally, a right of every citizen. And it's very disturbing that things have become so distorted. There's such a whipped up hysteria in some quarters that it's actually viewed as benign and everyday conduct for the Secret Service, police, aided by local law enforcement people, to expel students from a public event on their school campus. If you had seen, as I had seen, the tears streaming down the faces of these young women who were both frightened, intimidated, and frankly, completely shocked and horrified that this would happen to them on their campus. Can a one of us in here defend that kind of behavior? I don't care who you're voting for president. We're not going to throw our constitutional rights out the window, are we, in the fervor of the run-up to the election? My home state of Virginia, where I was raised and schooled, I got a disturbing call and then saw it again in the news that at Radford College, up in Radford, Virginia, the very same pattern occurred, where a presidential candidate instructs publicly paid Secret Service people and local law enforcement to eject people from his rally. I have friends personally who were there and witnessed it. And again, African American students enrolled in that school, coming on the campus, members of the academic community, seeking to attend an event in a campus building where they're enrolled, and they are deemed unworthy of being in the event. Now, this is not tied at all to behaviors by the students at Valdosta State that they came in and created some sort of mob mentality. Nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort. They had gone together as a group to listen to this presidential candidate address a public event on their school campus in a school building. Stand up and speak out against this. It's a violation of democracy. It's unseemly, barely describes this kind of behavior. Students from Valdosta State will be here this afternoon. There will be a press event to amplify what I'm saying here. There needs to be a loud and clear voice from the leadership of our state and the leadership in the academy that this is not to be tolerated. Thank you very much. Appreciate your attention.
Hold, doorkeepers, let's hold the, let me ask that all senators please come to the chamber and at this time, all senators please come to the chamber and take a seat. Doorkeeper, if you would hold the door after the senators get in. I ask all the senators please come and take your seats. Oh, I didn't realize. I just saw Senator from the 39th. Are you wishing for a point? A wave off? All right, thank you. Senators, please come in and take your seats. We have two points of personal privilege that doorkeepers just hold the pages for just a moment. Two senators wishing to address the body. It is now my honor to call upon the very distinguished senator from the 24th District at this time.
Thank you, Mr. President, and ladies and gentlemen of this great Senate body. I've been moved early in the morning to come here and be with you at a special time and a special moment. I got the biggest shock that I could take a moment ago. So I'm not equipped for this today. I'm probably going to make a mess out of this thing. I didn't bring no pamphlets with me. I got one in here that got some names on it, and I want to run through it. But the main thing that I want to say is thank God for his almighty power in the back corner. Now, let's get on to simple things. I realize probably today I'm the most unimportant guy in this room when I look at things like that. These little children coming down the aisle in a wheelchair. My business is unimportant. But I want to tell you that I will not qualify next week. And consequently, I will not be a candidate this year, and I don't think any other year in my life. But I don't guarantee that. I've been sent here 4 times. Casey knows that, the Lieutenant Governor, excuse me. He knows that, and I came here, and I was here when he came here. And I was a young guy. I thought he was a child. He'd meet out in the parking lot. I liked him right off. Always have, and always will. I want to tell you that when I first came here in 1978 to qualify for the House of Representatives of District 77, we came here and parked a bus right out here, a big bus. We had 75 people crowded, maybe 80, with green and white and signs, Jackson for action. They got out of that bus, and I turned around and went up those steps, and I felt like Moses the divine leading the children to the land of Israel. And when we got up here, there's so many of them. We came on through the building, went straight to the rotunda. I had never been to the rotunda. I'd been in the building, I had never been there. When I got there, I stopped and I looked. I looked around the walls. I walked around the walls, and I saw buttresses of great men who had come here, served, and gone on to prominence in the United States Congress and the Senate of this great United States. And I all of a sudden realized that 3 or 4 of them lived at Appleton, Georgia, where I live. I went to school at Carmel Academy and later the Appleton Academy. It was William Few, the sign of the Constitution. It was Abraham Baldwin, a man that went on from there and helped found the University of Georgia, a gentleman from Athens. Great men. George Walton from Augusta, Georgia, sign of the Declaration of Independence, which Columbia County was Richmond County that day. William H. Crawford, family brought him across the Savannah River to Columbia County, and he went to school under tutelage of Moses Waddell. Went on to move to Oglethorpe County, had great service in the General Assembly, and then went on to the Congress of the United States Senator, and almost became the President of the United States of America. Missed it by just a couple of 3-4 votes, and they tell me that had he not got sick, he would have been elected. But anyway, to make that point, as I looked up in that rotunda, I said to myself, who am I? Who am I that the people in my county would send me here to walk the same paths that great men had walked? Who am I? But let me tell you the story. I was able to make it. Not by myself. I questioned my ability. I questioned my mindset about it. It's big, it's so big. But I had help from many, many people. I walked among the big and the fine men and women that shared with me their experiences, and I was successful. I've been sent here 4 times, not bragging, just telling you the truth. 3 times in the House of Representatives and 1 time in this Senate, and had run for this job 4 times. Finally got it in 2007, started running in 1966 for this badge, never did get it, and tell you the truth, I shouldn't have got it because I was running against a man that didn't deserve to be defeated. Thank God I didn't do that to him. And when I got to the House of Representatives, guess who was the first man that came across that hall and tell me, welcome, Bill, anything I can do for you, I will do it. He was from Wilkes County. His name was Sam McGill. And he tutored me as long as I was here and he was here. But I met others. And I've got a list here. And if I got enough time, I want to tell you a couple of stories. Tom Murphy. He acted like a bad cat. He had a heart as big as a bushel basket of sugar. He'd cry if he said something about a child, he'd cry. He helped me. He helped me an awful lot. He never knew how much I did care about him because I'd jump out of the box every now and then. But I loved that man, and he helped me in ways that I won't even talk about today. Too numerous of opportunities to tell you. Marcus Collins, a man from Camilla, Georgia, he was the go-to man. He helped me every way. Anything I wanted, I'd go to him. He was patient with me. I'll never forget him. Bill Lee, out in Clayton County. Man, if he couldn't get it done, you couldn't get it done. He helped me so much. My dear friend from childhood, Frank Bailey, we served together over there. We are together now. We are friends and always will be. We ride them motorcycles all over the West, he and I don't know whether we're going to get to do that anymore, but we have done it. Bob Hanna, just good old Bob Hanna from down at Parrott, Georgia. He just was such an encouragement. Al Burris from Marietta died too early. A good man, a good man. And a man I met, Benson Ham. You probably hadn't heard about Benson Ham. Benson Ham was from down around Thomaston or somewhere. He'd go to the well, and he had such a persona. He had such a good way to present a bill. And he talked, so he was an orator, a quiet orator. And he'd turn a bill upside down. He was just that away, just like an evening breeze blowing. Just a good man. It was Howard Rainey. He was the first man that took my hand when I walked in the door out yonder one day. He's from down there, Cordele, Georgia. He helped me. He guided me when I was brand new, and I'll never forget him. Carlton Caldwell from up in the mountains. He was such a good friend. He helped me one time in a biggie. I'm not going to tell you the biggie because I can't have that time, but it was biggie. And the people of Augusta and Columbia County rides on it today. I want to talk to you for just a minute about Mr. Ralph Twiggs up there in Hiawassee, Georgia. He was so good, it beggared a mind. He would help you. He would talk with you. His door was open all the time. Terry Coleman, my buddy, first chairman I had when I got here, took me under his wing and put me on the public safety committee, and we had such a good time together. And he was such a dear friend and still is, thank God. Larry Walker, the daddy to my good buddy from the Twin. Ain't nothing like Larry Walker. He'd go to that well, and he was a great orator too. He just had that old South Georgia brogue, and he just tore him out of the chair. He was so good. I love Larry Walker and still do and always will. Bubba McDonald, chairman, appropriation chairman, that I got a big hunk out of one time over there, and I'm telling you, he was the appropriation chairman. I like old Bubba. Miss Grace Hamilton, a lady that was a lady of ladies, an Afro-American lady, the first lady, I believe, that was elected to the House of Representatives. It was so nice to go by her chair, and she just made you feel good. Those are some people that touch your life. Very quickly, I want to go on. David Lucas, right back there in the seat. He and I served on that same committee. We like fast cars and motorcycles then, but still like them now, don't we, David? Mr. Bob Argo, Majority Leader's dad-in-law. Never met a nicer gentleman. He was in that green door. He could make things happen for you, and I loved him. Mr. Glenn Ellard, the clerk of the House, never was a better man come through the doors. He was so helpful and generous. Robbie Rivers, the clerk. Elmo Thrash, I left him one time and made the mention. I went to the well and told him, I said, I know y'all think I'm leaving, and you think I'm going to tell you who the best man I ever met. You bet it. I bet you think it was Speaker Murphy. I said, oh, no. I said, I bet you think it's the governor. I said, oh, no. I'm going to tell you who's the best man I ever met. His name was Elmo Thrash, a gentleman and a scholar, and knew more about the history of this state than anybody that I've ever heard of. Mr. Bob Patton, just a good representative down there around Lakeland, Georgia somewhere. Helped me pass a bill one time that guaranteed in Georgia Clark Hill Reservoir would stay Clark Hill Reservoir. And when you come down our way on I-20, when you see them brown signs and it says Clark Hill 10 miles, you can thank Mr. Bobby Patton for that. And on the other side, they have some other folks' name. But it's Clark Hill where we come from, and he helped me pass that bill. And I'm just telling you, I loved him. Jack Connell, a great guy and a friend, and it's always a friend. He and Mr. Jan, we knew him so long, and they were precious. Mike Padgett was over here and over there, too. He's from Richmond County and did a great job. Don Cheeks was a friend of mine before any of us come here. He had guts. He never did have nothing but guts. He'd fight you if you had to. I liked him. Renee Utterman right back there. She and I served over in the House together. I was over there when she came. I went to her house one time when I ran for Congress, and she was the mayor of Loganville, I believe it was. And I went to her house, and I was so awed. She had tile everywhere. I said, man, I can't help but like you. You done bought all the tile in the world. She was really good. There was Richard Royal, by the way. As I hurry, I hope the president don't chastise me here, but Richard Royal, Bobby Parham down at Middlesville, such a fine man. When we got here, I bought a red Corvette, and he bought a white one, and we just rode them together, and we had such a good time, parked them together, and laughed about life, and it was so good. Bobby, I appreciate you through the years. And Miss Earlene Sizemore down at Sylvester, a lady of ladies, left here and became the superintendent of schools down there and served on the Public Service Commission. She was such a sweet lady. She lost a son on a motorcycle when I first got here, and I always remember my heart just bleeding for her and the strain that she seemed to go going through. I want to tell you about a man I met one time. It was different. I met a lot of them. You heard of Denmark Groover? Denmark Groover was the man that hung over the banisters and turned the clock back because it was messing with his bill. He couldn't get it through. Denmark Groover was an orator, that's first. But he was a mind, a legal mind, second to none. And I'm telling you the truth. He knew everything about every bill. You had a bill, he knew all about it. And he had a handful of them all the time. And trust me, if you went to that well and presented your bill and he came behind you to talk it down, church was out. Merry Christmas to you. It was over. A man of tremendous talent. I've never seen the like in my life. He was just such a wonderful fellow. Culver Kidd, his son's here today. He'd come in this room, I'd come over and say, I liked him. He liked me too. He outdressed me though. He just had red coats and blue coats and yellow coats and white shoes, and I couldn't keep up with him. But he introduced, and it's probably the record, he's probably introduced more bills than anybody has ever introduced. He had 20, 25 in his hand. And brother, if he was your friend, you had a friend. And I don't know about the other side, but he was a friend to me. Let me quickly go through Nathan Dean from over at Rockmart, Georgia. I liked him too. I just watched him and I liked him. Renda Hill from Greenville, Georgia. He and I went on a trip to Russia one time, and I cussed the Russians out in one of them high-priced meetings where they had all the braids on the shoulders. And 8 soldiers put me on a plane, 8 Russian soldiers. And Renda Hill was on the plane. And we laughed about that. He and Barbara and I laughed about that a lot of times. But Mr. Paul Brown was a gentleman. He was here. Some of y'all, I know Case remembers, such a gentleman. And he'd help you too. He'd come over and he'd help you. Terrell Starr, never been a finer man. So fine, our president brought him back and set him over there where he could advise us. And he advised me a lot when I got here. A man of man, no doubt about it in this world. Old Frank Albert, first Republican, I like him. He's still down in Columbia County. He came here. Bobby Rowan, man from down yonder in the South, he was all America. I'm telling you the truth. He was good to sit with him. I mean, I just sat with him and listened at him. I just appreciated him, liked him, still do, and I wish he'd come on back up here and talk to us some. Hodge Timmons, you remember Hodge Timmons? He was so funny, he'd break your sides. And I never will forget, I'm going to tell you this little quick story. Can I tell this? Yeah. Hodge said one night, and we were sitting over around the Marriott, and he said, he got to talk. He said, he talked like this, you know. He said, gentlemen, I just tell you what the truth said. This thing getting serious up here. Said, I don't know. I said, I left home there I've been gone for about a week. Said, doing this stuff. And so I come home and said, got to the house, the porch lights on. Said, all my clothes, everything I had up on the porch. So I knocked on the door. Said, my wife come door, said, honey, am I going to be gone this long? She said, you darn sure are, and it may be longer than you think. He'd break our sides up in them stories he'd tell. And then there was Casey Cagle up here, my lieutenant governor. He's always been my friend since the time I came here. He put me on good committees and important positions and made me a more important person than I could ever hope to be. And I love him. I supported him when he ran for lieutenant governor, and both times we put up as many signs as anybody, and I've always been proud of it. And my son back there somewhere he was, I don't know where he went. Yeah, anyway, he helped too and always took care of Casey. Mr. Brian Kemp was a friend of your Secretary of State. He was a great guy and friend as well. I want to tell you about the man that was the Secretary of the Senate when I got in, Mr. Hamilton McWhorter from Wilkes County. Nicer man and nicer man. We got a Secretary of our Senate that is capable and comparable to what Hamilton McWhorter was, and he knew him too. Over in the Secretary of State's office was a gentleman in a wheelchair. His name was Ben Fortson. He's the man that hid the seal up under the seat of the wheelchair when our 3 governor dilemmas, you remember. So those are some people I made. And then my last, Honorable Governor Nathan Deal. I've known Nathan Deal. I knew of him before I knew him, and I've known him in the late 60s, early 70s. We was in the JCs together, and he's such a great guy. He's made such a great governor of this great state, and it's just unbelievable the calmness and the patience, the stability brought this state through some of the toughest times, and does it with such dignity and purpose. And Miss Sandra Deal, there's not a nicer lady ever walked in this door than Sandra Deal. A heart so full of happiness and goodness for everybody. Let me tell you in closing, you know, I never have brought no notes to the well for me, but this is the first time. And I want to tell you this. I want to go downstairs for just a minute. I want to thank my good friend down there that's been so dear to me. Our chief of staff down there for the governor. He's such a good young man, and he's done such a good job. He's helped me so much, advised me, and sometimes I disappoint him, but he was good to me. And I want to thank him, and as long as I live in the world, if he ever needs me, that young man will have my attention. Now I want to tell you about the governor one more time. I am for Governor Nathan Deal, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. When it thunders, or when it lightens, when the creeks swell and run out on the top of the ground, and the mountains crush and fall apart, I'm gonna be for Governor Nathan Deal. His legacy will live on, and governors will hunt up his record to find out how to be a governor, I predict. I want to thank you all. I've enjoyed you so much, serving with you. I want to ask God's blessings on you and your lives, not only your lives here, but your lives as you go home, raise your families and have happiness. I pray that you'll have happiness, good health, and everything will be good for you. But I feel today that I've been here. There's a time to start your political career, and there's a time to go. And one monkey don't stop a show. This institution will live on, and it'll be as strong and as good as the great country of the United States of America. God bless you, and thank you forevermore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. I'll have some comments in a moment. Let me ask the Senate to take its seat once again, please, and the chair will recognize, keep the doors closed in the back, doorkeepers. Yeah, chair recognizes Senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I cannot follow that by any stretch of the imagination, but I appreciate I actually knew a lot of the people you mentioned there, and great folks that have come before us. In 1998, I decided that I was going to run for the Senate. I knew nothing about politics. I didn't know how to win. I didn't know anything about demographics. I just knew I was supposed to get in the race, and it was an act of obedience more than anything else that I felt like God had a calling on my life to run, and I didn't know if I was going to win, and that really wasn't the issue. It was just, was I going to overcome the fear of running? So I got in the race. I was running against an incumbent senator and a House member. The first poll that was done had the incumbent House member at 52%, the incumbent senator at 40%, and me at 8%. And that was 2 months before the election. And 2 months later, I had 49.5%, but they just discounted me, and I was almost, to tell you the truth, it was just absolutely miraculous that I won that race. I was actually the first Republican senator elected in the rural part of the South. There was one senator over in Savannah, Eric Johnson. Casey was up in Gainesville, and all the rest of the Republicans were in Cobb and Gwinnett and the metro counties. They're out there in the hinterlands. There were no Republican senators. So that was. But I will tell you this, I I worked hard to build the majority party, and we recruited people, and it's hard to recruit when you're in the minority, especially at that time. Governor Barnes was the governor, and Mark Taylor was the president of the Senate, and it was hard to get people to say yes that we would run, and but we did, and we built the majority, and I went all over the state trying to recruit people, and it was a fun time, and politics was interesting then. Sonny Perdue was a few years later ran for governor, and we just kind of rode that wave. I was able to serve as the vice chairman of the caucus, then the majority leader for 4 years, and then the pro tem for 4 years. And I'll have to say, during that time, I never had any opposition. It was a great time to be in Republican politics, and I will have to say that I hope that the Democrats could agree with this. Is the whole time I was in leadership, I always treated them with respect that they deserved, and I counted that as one of the goals I had, and I've made just great friends with the Democratic Party. But as Senator Jackson said, there's a time to come and there's a time to go, and I never believed that these jobs were meant to be permanent. I probably stayed a little bit longer than I probably should have, but I was telling the Lieutenant Governor the other day, you know, we had our dust up about the leadership of the Senate. I could have gone home and pouted, but I stayed here and righted a lot of relationships, and I am happy I did that. You need to make all relationships right if you can. Some of them you maybe can't, but I have done that, and it's been a great time for me. You know, we have this perception about politics, and the longer we're here, the worse it becomes within us, is that somehow we're doing the most important thing in our district. But there's a lot of people out there doing more important things than you are. Those school teachers that are trying to teach kids every day in public schools, I couldn't do that. I don't know if I'd do that for $1,000 a day. That is a tough job. Those DFACS workers who are trying to put homes back together, those pastors of churches who are dealing with folks that need a lot of spiritual help in their life, those are meaningful people that are doing as much or more than you are. And don't forget that there are folks out there that are changing the world every day that have nothing to do with politics. I want to be one of those again. I have to say, when I was not in politics, I was just as engaged as I am in politics. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but watch out. I tell you one thing I am going to do. I have reconnected with what it's like to be a radical Christian. Politics has a way of taking that away from you if you're not careful. I'm going to re-engage, and I'm going to see something happen. I actually believe if you keep a pure heart, you can hear the voice of God. So I'm going to be listening, and I'm going to be working at that. And so I'm really, really excited about the things that can happen in my life. I'm looking forward to it. My wife called me a few nights ago. She said, "Tommy, you got to talk to Emma Kate. She won't go to bed." So I got on the phone. I said, "Emma Kate, my mama is 83 years old, and if she tells me to do something to this day, sometimes she don't even know who I am now. But when she says go to bed, I would go to bed at 61 years old. So when your mama says go to bed, so that was kind of the impetus for me realizing I needed to be back home with my children. That, you know, you have this precious time when they're in their formidable years when they need daddy at home. So lastly, I just want to thank you for the great friendships and the fun I've had in this chamber. It has just been hilarious at times. It's been difficult at times. It's been stressful at times. But when it's all said and done, I have made friends here that I will take into eternity, and I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Well, just on behalf of the Senate, let me say for both the senator from the 24th and the senator from the 19th, we are certainly going to miss both of you, and we value not only your friendship that we hold dear, but your contribution to our state. You know, when I think of the senator from the 24th, there are givers and there are takers in this world. There are two types of people. And there is no question that the senator from the 24th is a wonderful giver. And he has given so much of his life to the constituents that he serves, and his work ethic, his love for family, his love for God will always be cherished. And we appreciate you and your service and your contribution to this state. To the senator from the 19th, I remember very well when you were talking about in 1998, Will Lou Smith and Ed Bo Shears, they had no idea who Tommy Williams was. And Tommy Williams was in the pine straw business, and he had pine straw trucks running all around that district. And they all had Tommy Williams for state senate on the side. And it was an amazing race. And the senator from the 19th, obviously he spoke of his family. When he came here, he wasn't married. He was the most eligible bachelor around. And somehow Stephanie talked him into marrying her. And I don't know who. I know Tommy was the biggest winner in that deal for sure. But the senator talked about this journey, and there is no question that the journey to a majority was quite remarkable. And through this journey, you do establish wonderful friendships. The senator from the 19th and I have probably, I don't know, maybe spent more time personally together than any other senator here. We hunted together. I wouldn't advise you to hunt with him, however. He does not want you to get a bird. He wants to get them all. But we have done an awful lot together, and we have been very, very close. And I am excited for what the future holds for the senator from the 19th, but your contribution as well will always be felt. And I could cite many, many things of your passion and how you have shaped the future of not just the party, but the state. And so I also appreciate you deeply and wish you the very best. Let's give these two senators another round of applause. Thank you very much. You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions that is before you. Is there objection? Without objection, the consent calendar of privileged resolutions are therefore adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw or commit? Not very bad in my opinion. Hold on. We are now on the local consent calendar. Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed on any of the bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, there are no objections filed in the Secretary's office.
Is there objection to agree in the Report of Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations, which Farrell passed the bill? Chair is none. Report of Committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? All those in favor of the local consent calendar will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the local consent calendar, the yeas are 48, the nays are 2, and this bill having received constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes the majority leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that House Bill 370 be engrossed.
370, Ethics Bill. Is there objection? There is objection on the motion for engrossment of the Ethics Bill. Do you wish to debate? All those in favor, vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. You are voting on the engrossment motion for House Bill 370, Ethics Bill. On the motion for engrossment, the yeas are 34, the nays are 17, and the motion, or House Bill 370, has now been engrossed. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've heard some disturbing news that even though we are past crossover day, the House did not consider any Senate bills today. And
that is correct.
Since the day is late, I would go ahead and move that the Senate stand adjourned pursuant to House Resolution.
No. Table.
We'll table those bills, and then I got another motion for you. I move that we table both bills on our calendar today.
Senators are moving that we table both of the House bills that are on the calendar today. Is there objection? Without objection, both of those bills will be laid on the table, and hopefully we will get a little action out of the House as it relates to some of the Senate bills. Chair now recognizes, those bills have now been laid on the table. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I suppose if they show a little more favorable action on our bills, we could take those off the table on Monday. So I move the Senate stand adjourned pursuant to House Resolution 1114 till 10 o'clock a.m. on Monday, March the 7th.
All right, we're going to read the announcements. The committees will be moved a little bit further out. So, Secretary, read the announcements.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have the list of committee meetings projected on the board for you, but they have been moved down 1 hour. So, for example, Rules is going to continue to meet immediately upon adjournment. Education and Youth will meet at 2 p.m. Health and Human Services will meet at 3 p.m. Economic Development and Tourism and Judiciary will meet at 4 p.m. and Finance will meet at 5 p.m. That completes the
Chair recognizes Senator from the 4th for an announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Senate, today is Thursday, of course, but this coming Monday, the next day we'll be in session. We've got a Senate Appropriations Committee meeting at 7:30 in the morning on Monday morning to pass out the general budget and take up one bill. So, you know, that's when the House had theirs. So I know good and well the Senate can be here at 7:30 just like the House can. We did a good job the last time we had our early meeting. So please, appropriations members, take note of this. Let your secretaries know and your family know that you're going to need to be here at 7:30 on Monday morning. This coming Monday morning, we'll have the Senate's version of the general budget, the perfect budget, ready to go for you to vote on Monday morning. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator the 51st for an announcement.
Senators, if you're hungry, there will be free barbecue downstairs, room 230. compliments of Georgia Propane Gas Association. Today is Georgia Propane Gas Day at the Capitol, so come to get barbecue at 1 o'clock, room 230.
Chair recognizes Senator on 32nd for an announcement.
Thank you, Senators. If you're on the Senate Finance Committee, we will not have a hearing today at 5 o'clock. We only have one Senate resolution. It's a tremendous resolution, I believe, but we'll take it up first thing next week. And look forward to see you then, and have a great next couple of days and weekend. Thank you. So once again, we're canceling the Senate Finance Committee hearing today.
The Majority Leader has moved. We stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Monday, March the 7th, 2016. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it. We stand adjourned.